Today we are going to talk about you being divorced but feeling stuck because you do not have a good sense of closure. You feel like you cannot move on. And you also feel like you should be further ahead by now. So today we are going to talk about closure. Closure. And what happens when we think that it's supposed to happen on its own. But that's not how it works with closure. Closure is something that you can create, believe or not, my señorita. And that's great news, because you get to decide when you move on and how. So in this video, I'm gonna spill a whole bunch of beans that will help you understand why some of us move on faster than others. Divorce can feel like the end, but what it actually is, it's a beginning. It's you coming back to yourself. For those of you that are here the first time, my name is Evelina. I'm a life coach for divorced women. I am that sister that's gonna help you move on from the life you thought you should have, create a sense of closure, and create foundation for life that you actually wanna live. And if you don't know what that even means, what is the life that you wanna have, I'm gonna help you figure that out. But before you get to that point where you even wanna think about your future, I help you close that old chapter. I help you create a sense of closure. So like I said, closure is not something that you find somewhere. It's something that you create. And that is great news because you got to be in charge. You got to be in charge. I remember being once in a company of this 5-year-old little girl that had a day off from preschool, and I asked her, "What are you gonna do today?" And she looked at me very confused, like, why am I even asking? And then she put her hands on her hips and she said, "Today, I'm in charge." So, my love, today I'm gonna talk to you about how to be in charge a little bit more. But before we get to be in charge, you have to see if you actually need to be in charge or not. This video is gonna be about you finding out if you need to go through this process of closure. This is gonna be where I give you a list of things. I think there's like 6 or 7 points where I tell you specifically what to watch out for and how to tell if you need to close the chapter for good. Some of you don't need to do this work. You've already moved on, you're good. But some of you need that. And so today we're gonna go through step by step and I'll tell you exactly what are the symptoms of life when you actually need the closure. So first of all, the very first thing, if you don't know this, I'm from Poland, so I roll my R's on occasion. First and foremost, girls, you can tell if you need a sense of closure if you are stuck in a mental loop. Keep thinking about old arguments, old conversations. You keep on replaying like that moment when you realize that it's really over. And you're constantly trying to make a sense of it, like trying to piece things together or figure out what you could do differently, if there was anything that you could have done differently. And frankly, that whole process of thinking about it is exhausting, right? Because it's like your mind does not take a break from it. So you might be thinking things like, why did it happen? Like, why are you even divorced? You feel like you've given everything you had for that marriage. So why did it end like that? It was not supposed to. You married the man that you thought was gonna be your guy till the end of your life. I mean, it might not be you, but some of us have these kind of thoughts where you felt like you really committed to something that was good and it fell apart. Or maybe you're like, why did I marry him in the first place? How could I not see the red flags? How could I not see that he was such a liar, that he was a cheater, that he didn't really love me. How could I accept someone like that in my life? Or how could I allow for things to get that bad? Right? If you have those sort of questions in your mind, señorita, they're not gonna go away unless you give them answers, okay? Because what's happening is that your mind actually wants to take that messy past and make sense of it. Your mind is your friend. The problem is that we're not giving it answers, and so it just keeps on bringing up the questions. But and truly, the solution is to answer the questions, because otherwise it's gonna be like, you're gonna be living like with this voice in your head. It's like an annoying parrot that keeps on coming back with the same set of questions. What about this? What about that? Didn't you love him? Didn't he love you? Did he ever love you? Maybe he was cheating on you with her, right? See? Who wants to live with that mental chatter in your head? No one does. But the mental chatter is how you can tell that you need a closure. And another way to tell that you need a closure that is directly related to the mental chatter, because thoughts create feelings, is if you, my love, have an emotional roller coaster happening within you. If you feel angry one moment and then the next moment you're depressed, right? You're sad. And then maybe a little bit later you feel a little bit of hope because, well, we were together, maybe we can get back together again. Maybe now that I'm out of his life, he will see how important I was and he will come back. And then you remember, oh, he already moved on. He already is dating someone. And that just breaks your heart into pieces. It's like your emotions are on a roller coaster and you keep on going up and down, and you cannot get off. So this is happening for two reasons, my friend. Two reasons. Reason number one is because your mind is not managed by you. Because you have all these questions coming up and the questions create emotions within you. The lack of the answers create emotions, create stress. But you also most likely have a whole bunch of other thoughts in your head about what has happened, thoughts that you have not chosen on purpose, that are just kind of like, the very first answer that your mind will give you. Those are the answers that you accept into your reality, and that's your truth. And that does not necessarily mean that that's what you actually want to be thinking, because it does not necessarily create a sense of peace. No, in this case, it creates a sense of emotional roller coaster, right? So the result is that you are on a roller coaster because you are not deciding what you want to be thinking about it all, okay? And thoughts create feelings. Another reason why you would be on an emotional roller coaster is because you have a whole bunch of emotions that have been maybe already happening during the divorce or during the marriage and then later during the divorce, and they're still living inside of you, and you have this like heavy emotional baggage that you haven't really addressed, and now you're so filled with that old emotion that it doesn't take much to stimulate a negative feeling within you. And this leads me to the point number 3, which is anger. Do you still feel angry about how things ended? Are you hurt? Are you still really hurt? Do you feel betrayed? And you feel like that resentment won't budge. Maybe, there are some other unresolved feelings towards your ex. Did he take advantage of you, you feel like? Did he cheat on you? Was he lying to you? Maybe you feel like how everything ended, the whole divorce, how everything ended, it was so unfair. Maybe you're angry at not just him, maybe you're angry at his family, his friends, maybe your family and your friends. Maybe it isn't just him, maybe it's just all of the world, because it wasn't fair. People didn't help you, people didn't stand up for you, people didn't stand up and say, no, the truth was different. These are all lies. There was a different truth and she deserves justice, right? maybe that didn't happen. And so today you are still very much so resentful and angry about it. That anger, my love, is not gonna go away on its own. With time, you are going to have less thoughts about it, and thoughts create feelings, so you're gonna have less thoughts that create anger. But it does not mean that that old anger is addressed. No, it just means that it sits there within your heart, and then there will be a situation where it's completely not related to the divorce, like where maybe you're driving in your car and somebody cuts you off and you just explode, which you're normally not like that. But in a car, you have this angry reaction. You're like, wow, what's that about? What's that about? Well, that is that old anger that's sitting inside there, and it's so easy to come out. If you are like this, my love, you need closure. 100%, you need to transmute that feeling. It's not gonna go away. It's gotta be transmuted, released, and that can be done on purpose. You do not want to live life where you try to create your new chapter with that old feeling of anger within you. Because that old anger is influencing your relationships with yourself, relationship with other people, the whole world. And if you're angry at the whole world because of how things ended, you are absolutely not giving yourself a chance to create a really good, solid, peaceful foundation for a new life. Not gonna happen, yeah? We want to make sure that your heart feels light, your nervous system has a space to breathe, and you really have a chance to create a peaceful, good life. All right, that's it. Enough of preaching about anger. Now we're gonna talk about the next point, which is, I think, maybe point number 4. Here's another option. Maybe it's been already longer period of time. Life has moved on. You're living in a completely different new arrangement. It's all completely different, except you feel lost and lonely, and you feel like you cannot move on. You feel like you have an anchor somewhere, and it's like, gosh, I don't know why. I cannot move on. I cannot dream about my future. I cannot enjoy life. But I feel like I don't have a direction. I ask myself all different kinds of questions about my life overall. If you find yourself doing it, you're like, who am I now? When I was a wife, I had a purpose. I had a reason. Even if my life wasn't perfect and my marriage was difficult, there was some sense and reason to my existence. And now I feel like all of that is gone. If you feel like this, it is because a lot of your identity is still connected to that old story. Okay? Sometimes divorce stimulates these huge questions in our head, like, what was I even born for? What am I here to do? What does God want me to do with my life? It's healthy to have these questions in your head, but they also need to be answered. If you're not answering those questions, this is why you feel lost, okay? It is what starts an identity crisis within us when we have those sort of questions and no answers to them. These are big, big, big questions. They can lead to depression if you don't have good answers. They can leave you feeling very lonely because people around you, even if you have supportive friends and supportive family, they're not gonna give you these answers, right? And like, what is your best friend gonna say to you? She's gonna say, oh, just give it some time. But time is not the answer here. The answer is the answer. It's actually thinking about it and answering it. That's the answer. Giving yourself space to explore it in a safe environment with a bit of a distance. That's what we do. That's what we do, my love. Okay. And another way to really recognize it too is if you have a hard time setting goals, if you have a hard time dreaming, thinking about different possibilities for your life. It's hard for you to embrace new experiences. It's almost like you feel like the best part of your life is over. Like, those were the best times of my life. Now I don't know who I am. I don't know what to do with myself. Life is not good anymore. Even if I didn't appreciate my spouse back then, those were really the best years of my life. And now, what am I supposed to do with myself? Life is never gonna be like that. It's kind of over. Imagine if you have another 50 years on this planet and what you believe about your life is that it's over, that nothing good is gonna come out of it anymore. How sad would that be? Many people end up feeling trapped in their own mind. They don't even realize that somehow, some way they've already said this to themselves. So no wonder that they're not enjoying their life, you see. Closure means acceptance of what happened, and it means also that you're gonna have then space in your head to really start creating a new foundation. But as long as you have these big questions in your mind, and your brain is like demanding an answer, that's why it keeps on bringing those questions up, and that's why you feel lost and lonely, and you have a hard time going into the future. Because you know what? To think about the future, to think about dreams, we need to utilize our prefrontal cortex. And if your prefrontal cortex is busy trying to find answers about the past, there's no space, there's no energy to think about the future, because the past is still messy. When we create closure, we take a look at the whole picture. We answer all of the questions. And then step by step, it all starts to make sense. So then you have the sense of acceptance, inner peace. The world that makes sense, that's logical, is a safe world. Our minds want safety. So when you give your mind the answers, the mind can finally relax. It will stop you asking all these questions. And you know what's gonna happen? Safe world means that it's a world where you can love again and you can trust again. So that takes me to the next point. Trust issues. How are you with your trust? Do you trust other people? Do you trust men? When you get into a new relationship, are you constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop? Because deep within, you're expecting for the story to repeat. You might not even be aware of this, but if you have a hard time trusting what you're doing, is you're carrying your old fears into the new relationship. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to the person that you're dating. It's just not fair. And you know what? To some degree, this is related to that whole story that many of you out there have, that there is no good men out there. I've been divorced, I've been dating. You know how many wonderful men I have met? Many. They're out there. Problem is that if you think you cannot trust anyone, who's gonna come to you? People that you cannot trust. Okay? So you're just gonna repeat. You're repeating the same old story. If you have trust issues, you've gotta clean up the past. You've gotta clean it up. How could you build a foundation and good marriage, or any, it doesn't even have to be marriage, just a relationship with someone, if you don't trust them, And we want for you to have a good love life. How many of us have been in long marriages where the romance has been dead for years, and your heart wants romance. It wants to be in love. It wants that connection, that safety, that the butterflies in your stomach kind of a feeling, right? We want that, we crave it. If you have trust issues, not gonna happen, señorita. So you really wanna ask yourself, are you reacting to the situations based on your old hurts? Are you in the back of your head thinking, is he gonna break my heart? Is your mind asking you this? It's not a clean start, so it's not fair to you and not fair to the guy you're dating. Okay, my love. The last point is this. You can tell you need closure if co-parenting is really difficult for you. If it's really tricky because it's not easy for you to talk to your ex. If you have a really hard time setting boundaries, sticking to the schedule. It's like you're living in separate homes. They've maybe already moved on with their life, but you're still kind of on hold. You feel like you have these lingering emotions, good emotions, bad emotions. That makes your life much harder because it's messy. It's like you don't have this distance, That sort of relationship with your ex is heavily influencing your relationship with your children. All right, my love, this is the last point. If any of this is resonating with you, if you're like, oh yeah, she's talking about me, that's me, I want you to first of all know that this is super normal and you're not alone in this. It's incredibly common to feel this way about divorce, especially if things didn't end in this like clean way. If you didn't get answers you were looking for. It's normal that we get stuck in our past because our mind wants answers. Now, another reason why we get stuck in our past is because we do not extract value or the right type of value from our experiences. And really think about how huge marriage actually is. When we say the vows, we say that we're going to be with this human being till our death. It's very serious commitment. And the truth is that when we are committing in the very beginning to the marriage, we have no idea what we're really committing to, right? It's not like we understand whom actually we have in front of us, because if we are with this human being for a long time, you're gonna first of all see all different versions of them, see them in all different kinds of situations. You're gonna, they're gonna change. The different parts of their personality gonna mature. Some will get stuck. You will see that person going through a lot of difficulties and easy times. So we commit to this huge project full of unknown, and then we create this life with them, house, kids, family, goals, all of that. We create this life with them. We give ourselves to them. They become a part of you, you become a part of them. So when all of that ends, no wonder it's not over in just like 1, 2, 3. Of course, our mind will want to make sense of it, right? Like ask these big questions. And of course, our hearts will need to process the emotions. I like to think about this process kind of like this. If you compare a marriage to a house, so you build a house with your husband, and here comes a divorce, and the divorce is a tornado that destroys this structure that you built together. And divorce is over, and now you are left with all this rubbish, with all this debris, right? So you have a lot of land, and this house that used to stand there now is just a whole bunch of rubbish. So if you were to clean up that lot to build something new, what would you do? That would be a whole process, right? First of all, you would need the right clothing for it, rubber gloves, maybe special glasses. You would need special gear. And before doing the disposal of all of the debris, all of the rubbish, you would need to separate it. You would need to separate it into categories, because you would have a construction debris and household garbage. You're gonna have all these big, large appliances and electronics. It would be a whole process, right? And during that process, maybe as you're cleaning up, you're gonna find an album, filled with pictures and your best memories. And so that's something that you wanna keep. Creating a sense of closure is like doing that, separating things, dealing with emotions, dealing with the old story from a different angle, looking at the whole thing from a very different perspective, deciding how you want to see yourself in it, and deciding how you want to see your ex-husband, the whole marriage, what do you want to think about it. That's truly creating a sense of closure. If you had a house and that was destroyed by a tornado and you cleaned up the lot, now you would have a clean slate. Now you could build something solid on it. And that's what happens. First, we look at the past, we clean it up, and then once that's cleaned up and your mind is filled with peace, now you're ready to start building something solid for your future. Now your mind has space to answer these big questions. Whom do I want to be now? What do I want to be experiencing? How do I want to be feeling? What do I want to be thinking about myself in this new world? Whom do I want to be with? Where do I want to live? What do I want to be doing? Right? All of that. These are important questions, but all of that can be decided too. So your new world will start making sense, because you will start making some good decisions. But it is because your old world makes sense now. Everything that has happened is cleaned up, put into categories. It all logically makes sense. Even if there are some questions that you would never be able to answer. If 90% of the questions are answered, it's so much easier to create a sense of acceptance where we don't know the answer, satisfactory answer to like one or two questions. And of course, when we are creating this closure, we also deal with all different kinds of emotions. We transmute them. Oftentimes what happens is there's a lot of grief. Grief is kind of like its own living thing. It's a process. It takes as long as it takes. A process that's happening within you, and you don't necessarily have tons of control in that, other than like how much space am I gonna give to myself? How much acceptance, how much love am I gonna show myself as I am grieving something so monumental? So it's like my grief is this living being, and I'm just gonna give it space to be there. Learn from the experience, and then eventually gets to a place where I give myself a right to move forward. I'm ready for it, truly ready. And I'm ready to start building this new, really happy life. So, girlies, for those of you that feel like I'm talking to you, because you feel like by now you should be somewhere else, like that marriage is you gotta clean it up. The debris, it's still sitting on the lot and the house has not been cleaned up. You feel like you should have moved on already, but you haven't. Reach out to me because I can help you. Because I am a coach. What I did differently, because I'm a coach. Like if I was not a coach, I would have not done this. I know it because of the knowledge that I have and the experience that I have as a coach. When I found out that I was getting divorced, immediately, as soon as I could, I went to my office, grabbed my journal, and I started looking at my mind because I wanted to be in charge. Because I knew that those feelings that I had in the moment, which was complete overwhelm, fear, so much fear of the future. I was terrified of the future. And so were you probably. I felt like my life was over. There were such huge emotions happening inside of me. I knew I have to sit down and I need to look at what's creating those emotions. And I carried myself with patience, love, and acceptance throughout the whole process. Separation, divorce, all of it. A lot of the skills that I teach my clients, I've already had them develop because I've already done this for many, many years. And so I knew the power of being in charge of your mind. I understood it. Thoughts create feelings. If I take charge of my thoughts, if I look at what's happening in my head and then really address it in the correct way, if I sit and feel my feelings, if I feel my fear, sadness, I am giving myself a chance to actually really move on. And so that's what happened. It was so much faster for me to move on. There's no comparison. This is why I help today, because I see how many of us get stuck. Like our mind will just not find answers, will not find solutions unless we know how to guide it there. That's what I help with. But here's what I did. Once I had that done, I've created a program that I take my clients through today. It's a 6-month program, and we spent 2 months, the very first 2 months, are dedicated to creating the closure. So you're gonna be learning about yourself, about your marriage, about your ex-partner as much as possible. Like, why did you choose that human? You're gonna be processing all of the emotions associated with this process. And truly giving your past self, the woman that went through all of this, truly giving her attention and love she needs. The attention that she's demanding, by the way. If you have a mental chatter, that's your past asking to honor all of that. So we honor her. We honor her effort. We honor her suffering. We celebrate what she created. We look at all the lessons she learned, and we do this so the future you, the you that will be creating another relationship, has a chance to create something so much better. Because most of our marriages fall apart way before divorce. Sometimes it's years of disconnection, years of feeling lonely, feeling unseen. It's like two strangers living under one roof. So if you want to get married again, you don't want to repeat the same old dynamic, right? That's why we have to learn from the past. Now, if you feel like you need help with this, my love, reach out to me. I'm going to put a link to my website in the comments section of this video. And what you will be able to do there on my side is to schedule a 15-minute talk with me. This first conversation is to determine if I am even the right person to consider. It's for me to make sure that you and I are the right match, that you qualify for my program. That's what the 15-minute conversation is for, because I don't want to waste your time and I don't want to waste my time. I don't want you to waste your money, and it doesn't make any sense, right? The 15-minute is for us to connect, make sure that we are the right candidates to have the second part of this process where we talk for much longer. There will be an hour call. All of this is complimentary. I will talk to you on the second call for 1 hour. We do a really deep dive in that second 1 hour long call, but that comes later. So for now, my love, remember, be kind to yourself. Allow yourself to feel whatever it is that you're feeling, and do not be afraid to reach out for support. You're strong, you are resilient, and you really deserve to find a sense of peace, calm, and power. I want you to feel like you can be in charge. I want you to have the confidence of a 5 years old. It's like, I'm in charge today. I want you to be in charge of your life. You deserve to be in charge, okay? You deserve to make these decisions. You deserve to have that power and create, without any apology, a life that feels so good, so yummy. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If any of this resonated with you, please give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to this channel. Share it with another girlfriend who might need to hear this. And let me know in the comments if you'd like me to tell you more about creating a sense of closure after divorce. Have a wonderful the rest of your day, night, whatever you're doing. I'll talk to you next time.